Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another GitBook webinar. We'll just give it a minute or two for some people to roll in. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, where you're calling in from, if this is your first GitBook webinar, and also what you're interested in seeing today. Hopefully everyone's excited about the launch that we had last week. We're definitely super excited to hop in and show you everything that we've been working on. Just make sure the chat is working. Yeah, feel free again to say hi if you're just coming in. We'll also use the chat for any questions. I have my teammate Sarah, who's just joined the GitBook team on our docs team. So we're super excited to have her. She's going to be in the chat, hopefully answering some questions that you might have. We'll also leave some time at the end to answer some questions as well. Excited for everyone to be here. Yeah, some logistics as well. I see some questions in here already. Yes, we do record these as well. So we will be sharing this afterwards. We'll send a reminder, and we also add these all to our website as well. So if you are interested in watching any previous webinar streams, you can head to gitbook.com/events. And you'll find all of our previous webinars there. And we also post all of these to our YouTube as well, where you can find more than just webinars, also videos on getting started and migrating your content to GitBook too. Awesome. So it looks like we have people from all over. Awesome. Very, very cool. Well, without further ado, I think we can go ahead and get started. We have quite a few people in the room already, and we've got lots to cover. And I'm really excited to be back on another GitBook webinar. We want to do a few more of these this year because we have a lot of things that we're working on to really push forward what documentation means for product teams, especially with the rise of AI and how documentation is being consumed and used across tons of products and companies. One thing I do want to shout out, and I think it provides quite a lot of context as well for some of the features that we're working on. We recently, last month, just released the State of Documentation report for 2026. We did one in 2025 as well. And every year we find tons and tons of really great findings. I'm sure many of you in the chat have also helped contribute to some of that. So thank you very much for your answers. And if you haven't seen it already, make sure you head to stateofdocs.com. You'll find the latest report and be able to dive into all of the findings. But we see some very, very interesting things, like I mentioned before, with AI and how documentation is being consumed and also written. And a lot of the features that we work on at GitBook is directly related to a lot of the trends that we see in the documentation space. And this launch specifically is really focused on, well, what the title says, closing the docs feedback loop. So not only how documentation is being consumed, but how things are being kept up to date for your users and also for the AI that's consuming these things in the first place. So let's go ahead and dive in. If this, again, is your first GitBook webinar, nice to meet you. My name's Addison. I work on our developer relations team at GitBook. And I host most of our webinars and dive into all of the tips, tricks, and features that we launch at the company. Today, for a quick agenda, I'm going to give a little bit more context on how documentation has changed across the landscape within companies and for products. Talk a little bit about the problem, so why docs become out of date and why that's a problem for AI and for basically just anyone reading and utilizing docs, and some of our solutions that we've launched to kind of combat and answer some of these problems that we see. Well, obviously, spend a big portion of the webinar on a demo as well, diving into these features, showing you how to set it up, what it means for you, and how you can really get the most out of these new features that we've launched. And we'll also take a look at what this means for what's coming next in GitBook, because a big part of these launches is basically like building blocks. We have a big vision on how documentation can become the most useful asset at your company. And a lot of the features that we build are stacking up to help you prove that documentation is very important, basically. And then, like I said, we will also leave some time at the end for a Q&A. But my teammate Sarah is in the chat as well. So if you have some questions along the way, feel free to ask them as we go along. And Sarah will try to get to it. Otherwise, we'll try to leave some time at the end to dive into it as well. So let's talk a little bit about the context and how documentation has changed. And I pulled this chart actually from the State of Docs report that I was mentioning before. And I thought it was very, very interesting. And we're seeing this across many platforms across the industry, but AI readership across documentation platforms, and I'm sure most of the internet as well, is up a ton. It's over 40%, which means we saw over the last year, AI being one of the main readers of documentation sites on GitBook across the entire year. And that's really, really huge, because that means that your documentation isn't necessarily only important for users who are reading it. Obviously, they're going to need a lot of this context too, but many people are relying on AI tools such as ChatGPT, Claude, Cursor, and other AI agents to consume the documentation that you're writing. So that basically, that means that your job as a tech writer and as someone who maintains documentation is becoming a lot more important, because your reach for the things that you're writing becomes a lot bigger, and it's consumed in a lot more ways than it was previously. One of the main problems, though, that we see, this has always been kind of a main topic, but it's even more important now that the reach and the spread of documentation is growing so quickly, is that docs become out of date very fast. With the rise of AI, not only are they reading your docs a lot more, but product teams are shipping features, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this at the companies that you work at as well. Companies are shipping features faster than ever. We also are here at GitBook, as you can see with many of the launches that we have. And as your job as a tech writer or someone who works on documentation becomes, again, extra important, because you need to figure out a way on how to keep your docs up to date with the product and for your users and for the AI agents that are accessing and using your docs. So a few things that we've launched, we'll dive into some of these in the webinar as well. We've launched a brand new AI Insights panel. If you've been a user of GitBook for a little bit, we did have Insights before. We've actually renamed that now to Analytics, which is still going to show you all of those great analytics for like your users and what people are searching for and traffic and broken links, etc. But we've introduced a new Insights panel specifically for the AI usage across your documentation website. And it's very, very interesting, the type of things that you're going to see. But we're also going to dive in this webinar how you can use that to improve your docs and what that means for the usage of your docs. We've also launched connections for GitBook Assistant, which allow you to hook up different sources to add to the context for your AI assistant inside of your docs to help it answer questions a lot more easily for your users and guide them in the right direction and guide them to the right resources. And we'll speak more on that in just a bit. We've also revamped and kind of officially launched the Embeddable Assistant, which allows you to take GitBook Assistant and embed it anywhere. We'll take a look at that. You can embed it in your product, in your website, and customize it a ton as well. So you don't have to have it work as like a simple chatbot. You can also have it interact with different elements on your site, different parts of your product as well. So basically bringing the power of GitBook Assistant, which has all of the knowledge from your docs, all of the knowledge from the new connections that we'll look at, and basically be able to spread that wherever your product and your users are outside of your documentation. And we'll also take a look at channels, which is something that we are launching in beta. So a few of you might not have access to this just yet, but I wanted to highlight this and show you what we're working on next. As I mentioned at the start of this webinar, a lot of the things that we're going to be we've launched and also are launching are kind of like building blocks, again, to answer the problem on how documentation is being changed and how it's being consumed, and how we're solving that with these different features. So here's a quick look AI insights. They allow you to see what your users are asking your GitBook Assistant agent, how well it's being answered from your docs, and what you can improve on next. Again, we're going to dive into this and show you what it looks like in practice. But basically, you'll gather tons of feedback, get scores on the questions that were answered, take a look and see how helpful it is. So the content that you have in your doc site, how well that answers the questions, and gives you a lot of context on, hey, I need to improve this, I need to add pages, or I need to fix this this flow in my doc so we can answer the things that our users are asking for the most, and also some more insights into, again, what people are asking. We've also launched connections as well, which is a way to enrich your assistant with extra sources, because we definitely know that your docs aren't your only source of context for your product or your company. It's a big part of it, but teams have media spread across different video platforms like YouTube. You have your code base as well, and maybe community aspects of it, like on Discord or on different sites. And all of that is very useful context for the GitBook Assistant for when people are asking questions. So not only are you able to pull in the answer from your documentation, but you'll also be able to hook it up to different sources, many that we've launched already and more coming soon. So the assistant can use that as context to answer the questions. The Embeddable Assistant is something that we've had out in beta for a little bit, but I'm going to give you a bigger demo of it right now and show you how you can enable it and then also add it to your website. But again, what I was saying is it allows you to add the GitBook Assistant to your product, to your website, so you can have the power of the AI assistant, AI chat in more places than just your docs. And I also want to take a look at the channels that we've launched. We have a couple different ones that we're working on. I'm going to demo our GitHub channel as well. But essentially, it'll allow you to document different things that you have going on inside of your code base. So you can take a look at this little screenshot. I'll show you it in a little bit. But you can ask the GitBook bot directly inside of a pull request inside of GitHub and ask it, is this documented yet? What would you recommend to do based on the changes inside of here? And it will go ahead and create different change requests for you that you can review with your team and go through the normal review process before you merge it live. So what we are kind of answering, again, with all of these features and how we see this working at GitBook is, again, closing the loop, which is a big theme that we announced in the last launch that we have. If you have better docs, you'll have better answers, and your users are going to succeed with your product a lot more. What that gives you is more questions asked, and also better answers from the context that you have. And then you're also able to use that feedback to close the gaps in your docs and in your content better. And as you can see, it kind of is a flywheel effect that continues to generate better documentation and a better experience for your users, which is something that is our main focus here at GitBook. But obviously, everyone's here to see what we launched and take a look at it. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at some of the features that we've launched. So the first thing that I'm going to take a look at is the AI Insights, which is the first feature that we launched and the first one in this webinar. AI Insights allow you to take a look at what your visitors are asking and give you a score on how well your content is answering the questions that they're asking. The Insights panel can be found from your GitBook editor. If you head to your doc site in the left panel here and head to the new Insights panel up at the top, you'll see a quick snapshot of a few key points here. So you'll see an estimated savings, which is essentially a score that we've given your docs on how well the assistant is answering questions and how much time your support team might have been able to save by having the assistant answer questions successfully for you. And we'll take a look at that in a second. You'll see the number of questions that have been asked, and then you'll also be able to see the number of questions that have been answered as well. And this is very useful because you can take a look and finally filter in to see what questions users are asking and what questions weren't weren't able to be answered and how you can fix them. Underneath this, you'll be able to, we automatically sort these into different topics. So I want to share first the documentation site that I'm referring to. I'm actually going to share it inside of the chat here. Feel free to use this, explore the site as well, and also use the GitBook Assistant. These questions will sync in real time. So we'll basically be able to see the questions come in and how well in real time, how the docs have been able to answer your question. But GitBook will automatically sort these into topics based on the questions that have been asked and then rank them. So you'll take a look here. Based on some of the demo questions that I've asked, it has sorted it into enterprise-related questions, calendar-related questions, support-related questions, notifications, release notes, and localization. For some extra added context inside of here, these categories will be different for your site when you're looking at this specifically, as these are grouped into the types of questions that were asked on my site specifically. And this is just a mock site that I made in previous webinars on a fictional app called Syncly, which is, you can imagine, like a calendar app. So you can create calendar events and create calendar invites. So that's why you'll see different questions related to the calendar notifications, because those are features that are related to this doc site. Underneath that, you'll then see the questions that are actually being asked. So you can see, why should I use Syncly? How does it work? And you'll also be able to see the number of times these questions were asked and its ability to be answered. You'll also see a bigger snapshot of what the questions are, if they were being able to be answered, partially answered, or not answered at all. And then again, additional categories inside of those questions on what type of question it was. If it was a troubleshooting question, if it was an exploring question, so it might be good for like collecting leads or helping people discover your product, or a how-to, which would probably be the most common one. How do I use the product? How does this work? How does this feature work? So let's dive in and take a look at some of the more in-depth views inside of this. So I'm going to hop into one that has quite a few questions that were being asked, which is the calendar topic. So we give you a quick AI overview of what type of topic this is based on the questions that are being asked. And you'll see the number of questions that were actually attributed to this topic about calendars. So you'll see the question that was asked: how do I create a calendar invite? Why should I use Syncly? And how does Syncly work? And you'll see the number of times it was being asked. And also you'll see a rating that was generated by any of the people inside of this chat or your users on how well that answer, if it answered it well or not. And you'll see all of this eventually reflect inside of the score inside of here. If you hop inside of one of the questions as well, you'll also be able to get a more in-depth view of what the context was behind the chat. So if I hop into how do I create a calendar invite, which is a question that someone had asked probably pretty recently, you'll see when it was asked, the category that it was in, which is all auto-generated and auto-made by the types of questions that are coming in. You'll see its performance. So if it was able to be answered by the GitBook Assistant, you'll see where it was asked as well. So right now you see 100% on the doc site. This is important because we'll take a look at this later. You'll also be able to differentiate where people are asking this question, if it is on your website from the embedded version or somewhere else, and also the number of sources that this is coming from. And I haven't hooked up any connections just yet, but you'll see that those will feed inside of here. You also see a little bit of the visitor profile, so where they were visiting it, the language. And then also you'll see a quick log from the actual conversation that they had, and you'll be able to see the answer that the assistant gave this user. This is rated helpful. It's also marked as answered because it does have the correct information inside of my docs on how to answer this question. And you'll also take a look at the different content that it used in order to answer this question here as well. So basically, it has pulled information from the changelog, the community, the documentation, the quick start, all of these different pages inside of here. So all of this is super useful and definitely going to be very helpful for you to basically take a look at the questions that people are asking. You're also able to filter these by the type of questions. By default, it's going to filter it by its relevance, but you're also able to only look for, let's say, unanswered questions or its relevance. So maybe we can switch to questions that were not answered, and we can take a look at the questions that people have been asking. And this already is a really great signal for myself or anyone working on this doc site on what I should focus on first. So we can see that there are a number of different questions that people have been asking that have no answer. So maybe this one, for instance, is there a trial available? And obviously it doesn't have any sources of a trial inside of the docs, which is expected. I don't have any information on that inside of here. So this is obviously something that we would want to monitor and see. Are more people asking about trials? Is this something that we should maybe implement in the future in terms of documentation around this topic? And again, you can browse through all of these different topics, take a look at what percentage of these different topics take up the number of questions to help you really prioritize where the gaps inside of your documentation are coming and how you can fix them with real information from the users and the questions that people are asking. So the next thing that I want to talk about is something called connections, which, as you saw before, is a way to empower and enrich the GitBook Assistant with more context than just the docs. So I do have my whole doc site right here, but we can imagine that I have more information across maybe like a blog, across our YouTube channel, really anywhere on the internet that would also be very useful information for our assistant to know about. Going back to the question before about the trial, or maybe even how do I migrate? Maybe a user has asked this inside of a community channel, or maybe we've made a video on this on our YouTube before. We can now add extra context to the assistant that'll help it use that context when it's answering questions in the future. So to add a new connection to your GitBook Assistant, still inside of your GitBook site, you'll want to head to Settings and then head to Connections. Now, by default, we have a few different ones. We have GitHub Issues, GitHub Discussions, YouTube, and Website. The website one being very powerful. Always let us know if there's a specific source that you do want to add. You can head to our own GitHub Discussions and request a new feature, and we'll definitely monitor that and see which ones we can prioritize to add directly into this panel next. But I do want to show you what it would look like if I added like a website, for instance. And I do have a mock website here. You can also take a look at the website that I'm working with. And this website is pretty bare. It's just a quick wireframe that I made earlier in the week. But one section that I do have is our blog, and this just contains some very short posts on calendars, why they're important, and maybe some ways to boost your productivity with a calendar. But I have these all live under this website called Syncly app under the path/blog. But we can add this directly as context to our site simply by going to the website connection. And we can add it as a user question ability. You'll see this blocked out as suggesting change requests. And I'm going to show you this in just a bit, but I'm going to focus on the first one, which is allowing your sources to answer user questions. So with the website one specifically, I'm going to add this in. And if I add in just the website as is, so Syncly app/blog, it'll actually just take all of the URLs underneath the blog endpoint. If I wanted to add the entire website, including the blog, I would just add the website like this. So this is useful if you don't want to add the entire context of your website, maybe only a blog or only certain pages. You can specifically add multiple ones, or you can add a URL like this. You'll also see something called a search ranking boost. And this is going to tell GitBook Assistant whether to boost this as a primary source of context for its answers or lower it. So if you want the assistant to focus on your documentation as its main source of context, you would want to put these, the connections, something a little bit lower. But just to demo this, I'm going to put it something a little bit higher, like 1.2. So we'll create a connection here. And you'll see that it will start to crawl and it will start to add these. In the meantime, I also do want to just share one more, and I'm going to share our YouTube channel as well. I don't have a YouTube for the Syncly app, so I'm just going to use the GitBook one for now. And our channel is just like that. And I'm also going to boost these to 1.2. Oops, maybe it's actually, I might need to check out why it's not doing that one. I have to take a look and see why that's not adding, but you should be able to add that in there just by pasting your channel ID. But in the meantime, we do have the website one. It's already synced. It's found 3 pages. And basically, you'll take a look and see the different records that it's found inside of here. So we have the blog post that I mentioned before, and then this one is just the top level blog website. But what's cool about that is we should now be able to see these as sources pop up when people are searching or asking for things. So maybe we can try something like boosting productivity. And you'll already start to see that this is pulling inside of the search when we search for it. It's found the website and it's added it as a source inside of here. And if we ask about it should also pull this as a source from this as well. And you'll see that it pulled this source directly from here. So this is really useful in terms of adding extra context. Like I mentioned, we have a couple different integrations already and more coming. But if you also are discussing your product inside of GitHub issues or GitHub discussions, this could also be very, very useful to bring forward a lot of this context into the assistant so it can use it to answer this as well. So let me just refresh this and take a look because I want to highlight something else inside of the Insights panel again. I need to find it though, but I do want to find the productivity one. These are also grouped. So this is the answer that it was found. But you'll also see now that it's grouped this into this question, why should I use Syncly? But it's added a new source from the websites inside of here, why calendars are important, the Syncly blog, and the 5 ways calendars boost your productivity to your site, and it adds it as a source here. So again, This is the question that I just asked. This is the answer that it gave. And you'll be able to see where these connections are basically influencing your assistant and how it's helping to answer different questions. And you'll be able to see all of that inside of here. So again, awesome. I see quite a few questions coming in. I'm going to go back at the end of this and we'll go through and answer a few more. But Sarah should be in there. So if you have any questions as we're going along, feel free to just ask them and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So the next thing, and just to follow up on this as well, like I mentioned, we are working on a ton more connections and we want to know what connections you're looking forward to the most. So make sure you hop into our GitHub community. If you head to github.com/gitbookio, inside of our discussions there, you'll be able to request different features specifically for connections, and we'll take a look and see which ones we can add next. So make sure you hop inside of there next. The last thing I want to demo that's really about this specific release is all about the Embeddable Assistant. So again, it's taking the power of the assistant that we've been seeing inside of the docs, inside of here, and bringing that elsewhere to like a website or like a product. So because this is, again, a fictional product, I've just made that website and we're going to explore what it looks like inside of there. So to start, if you do want to embed the assistant, you'll find the option to do so inside of your settings, inside of your doc site as well, under Docs Embed. And we have a few different ways that you can use this. You can import it via script. You can install it via npm. And we also do have a React provider as well if your application or website is built in React. And we have all of the different options to configure this inside of here. We also do have docs on all of this as well. I would highly recommend basically just hopping into GitBook Assistant, saying, hey, I'm trying to integrate GitBook Assistant in my website. How can I do it? But you can also read more inside of the Embed in your product section under publishing documentation. And we also just released a new skill as well. So if you are using something like Claude Code, Cursor, you can add this skill directly to your coding agent. And this has all of the context of this, and it should be able to implement this in probably just one shot. If you ask it, hey, I need to implement this in my website, please implement it in the best way possible. After you go ahead and do that and add it inside of here, I've already added this to my website as just the script tag to the top of the website. And you'll see that it's already working. So we have the floating panel. I've just moved this over to the left because I have this little badge over here on the right. So yes, you can customize where the ask button is basically showing. You can also customize this to hide the ask button as well if you don't want to show it at all. And what's cool is because it's injected into your website or product, you can also customize this and its behavior on how it works. So what I've actually done here is just added a input to the website inside of here. And I can ask anything. So how do I boost productivity with calendars? Just using that from before. And I've wired this up so it takes the input from, the values from the input and pipes it directly into the GitBook Assistant. So it will basically, show me everything inside of here directly. And we can continue to chat with the assistant inside of here. And this also, all of this will feed back into the insights panel that we've been looking at earlier. So you'll be able to see the different sources on where these questions are being asked. The GitBook Assistant itself is quite customizable as well. We have all of the documentation inside of this, inside of configuration. So if you want to customize this even further, you can customize the way it looks, the naming of it, and you can also add custom actions to it as well. Before I look at custom actions, I do want to just show you the default panel that it has out of the box, which is the documentation panel as well. So by default, it opens with the GitBook Assistant. Again, all customizable. If you just want to show the docs, you can also do that too. And this will show a little web browser on whatever feature or the docs that we have going here. So a very cool use case for this could be if you have a feature block on your website and you want people to learn more, you could very easily wire this up. So you could click learn more and it opens the assistant that either asks a question and gives a response on how is this useful for my team, or you could even just open up the docs directly right inside of here to render and for people to read about it automatically. The other thing about the embed panel as well is it works out of the box just by adding the script tag. But as I was mentioning, it's very customizable too. So you can go ahead and also embed this inside of a iframe or a container as well. So by default, it's a floating window. But if you wanted to place this inside of a container, like this black box here, or have it take up a full screen on your page, you can really customize its behavior, the way it works, all through code. And again, I would highly recommend taking a look at the skill that we have inside of here if you are coding with an agent, because this will allow you to very easily just chat with something like Claude Code and have it implement these changes almost immediately with almost zero coding configuration on your side, hopefully. To give you a better demo, though, of what kind of things that you can customize, if you take a look at our website, we have the assistant obviously on our website as well. But you'll see that we have a couple different actions on the side here, which are very useful if you want to explore different features, learn about what kind of savings you might get with the assistant. I mean, we've come up with these obviously specific to GitBook and the GitBook Assistant. You might want to give a little bit of think of the type of prompts and different things that you want to put inside of here as well. But you could wire this up to have it ask you different questions as well. And all of these are different tools that you can wire up inside of here. So it's doesn't only necessarily work as a chatbot, but you can also build it as a product that will ask questions and gather information about your different users, and then give it an answer. All of the interactions inside of here as well can also be collected. You can also collect this stuff in a form. You can track it. You can do whatever you'd like, all within the configuration of the assistant as well. So just to show you a demo of this and what this would look like, maybe we're building product documentation for Syncly. What are the main goals? Let's do support load. Also submit the answer. What else matters to me? Let's say Git-based workflow and in product help. And based off of this, it will basically allow you to, well, it will give me an answer based on the answers that I submitted, and then it will take a look at through all the connections that we have, our blog, our GitHub. It will also take our docs into account, and it will give me an answer, based on that. So this is, again, a very, I would say, pretty meta way of using this, because we're using the GitBook Assistant to ask about GitBook Assistant. However, for your use case, it's going to be a lot different. Obviously, the features and products that you're shipping are going to be a lot different. And wiring all of this up through the embeddable version will allow you to really customize how this works, where it shows, and again, how it's interacting with your users. If this is also very interesting to you, let us know inside of our GitHub community. Be happy to go deeper inside of this and maybe do a specific webinar on customizing the assistant, taking a look at coding agents, and diving into this, because there's quite a lot that you can do with this. A few questions that I've seen about this as well. It also does support authentication as well. So if you do have your docs protected behind auth, it does work with this as well. So you can rest assured that as long as your docs are authenticated, the assistant will still be authenticated or only work with authenticated requests as well. So it's definitely secure and works out of the box with your docs site. Okay. There's just one more thing that I really want to focus on for the end, and that is the notion of channels and kind of what this means for, again, closing the loop. So as I mentioned at the start, all of these different features and specifically the insights should hopefully give you a very good idea of what your users are asking and what you need to fix inside of your docs. You'll also be able to see what things, basically need the most love and care, and what you would want to update the most. Something quickly on the content, I think I didn't mention so much, but this is, again, the number of docs pages and records, again, connections that you have that are able to be used to answer the questions inside of this topic, which is also a pretty good indicator if there's a ton of questions that are being asked and they're being answered almost 100%, you might be pretty good with the content that you have inside of here, because everything's being answered with a small amount of content, which is a good sign. But again, if you have a small amount of content and almost like a lower score on your answered and a lot of questions, that's definitely something you want to take a look at, either adding more content inside of a single page, adding more records, again, because people are asking these questions and they're not finding the answers inside of here. But to close that loop, how we could also take a look at some of the features that we're working on to close this specifically. And for that, I want to take a look at the connectors that we've been working on as well. Let me actually head back here. And let me head to the channels that we have. So I'm just going to give a quick demo of what this is and how it works, because we are again actively working on this, and this is in very early access. And we're excited to ship this stuff to you guys very shortly. But I want to give a quick demo of this first. But essentially, we have 2 channels that we are going to ship, and many more coming after this. I mean, you can think of a channel as a way to work with the GitBook Agent inside of the different tools that you're using. So Slack is a very popular tool, and so is GitHub as well. And each channel is going to work a little bit differently, but the main idea is essentially being able to, the idea works in 2 functions. The first one is asking questions using the assistant. So either inside of GitHub or inside of Slack, being able to ping the GitBook bot and say, how does this work inside of my docs? Or how does this work in the current setup that we have? And the second half of it is the agent. So something that can basically create and update different change requests for you and the changes that you have. If you haven't seen it or worked on it already, we do have the agent baked into GitBook, and the agent allows you to ask it to do something, to edit or update something inside of your docs. And it will go ahead and do that. It will make the edits. It can also review your change requests too, if you want an extra review. But what the channels allow you to do is harness the power of GitBook Agent inside of these different tools. And I'm just gonna take a look at the GitHub one for now. I've hooked this up already. I've added it as a collaborator, and it says it's able to work with myself and my team to maintain docs and suggest improvements. And I do have this repo public as well. So it's just called Syncly. And this PR is just a fake one. What I've asked it to do, what I did was just add a very fake API endpoint. And maybe some people want to use Syncly via an API. So I've added, just a fake endpoint for this. And inside of this, I've basically just asked it to review this PR and document it inside of GitBook. So what it does is it will read all the changes. It will take a look and search the current docs that we have. And you'll see here it's saying, well, it doesn't see an existing API page. I'm going to check the structure and see how I can implement this fully. And this is, again, using GitBook Agent to do this. And you'll see it also created a change request. So if I actually hop into the GitBook side of things and I head to change requests, you'll see that it has created a change request for me as well, so I can review this with my team and potentially implement this. Oops, let me reload this. Oh no, not sure what's going on here. Let me actually head to this view instead. Well, it looks like, as I mentioned, we are working on this actively, which means there's some things that we need to fix a little bit more on this. But essentially, what it will do is it will create the change request for you, and then you can go ahead and review this. The idea behind this as well is that it will work also in Slack. We definitely know that a lot of teams are working quite a lot with their team in Slack back and forth. They're discussing new features, or maybe the support team is pinged and said, hey, this feature hasn't been documented. We need some help. You can also just tag GitBook Agent inside of Slack and say, can you document this for me? And it will do the same thing. It will create a change request and open that up for you so you can review it and merge it. And where we're taking this also further through these different integrations and through these different channels is trying to make something that essentially helps you monitor your docs, the state of your documentation, and creates something that helps update and automatically fix itself. So there's a lot, like I mentioned, a lot of different pieces that kind of go into this, and the insights and the collection of this data is a very, very big part of this, because in order for us to make sure that we're knowing what we want to update and what needs to be updated, we need the insights into what needs to be fixed in the first place. So the other half of this is, again, fixing and working on a lot of these updates through things like the connections, through the agents, and eventually being able to automatically have agent take a look at this and say, hey, there's one question that wasn't answered properly. These questions were answered correctly, with this one having a good answer. Maybe I can update the pages and also automatically suggest these changes for you. So we're definitely working our way towards something that helps you build a doc site that is automatically up to date. Again, using all the context from the different places that your content lives online, whether it's a website, a blog, your community, your code. So you can have an effective doc site that works very well for your users.